You know what's wild to me? Most people are walking around every single day, busy, exhausted, constantly doing things, and yet they feel completely empty. Like they're running on a treadmill that never stops, but they're getting nowhere, and they can't figure out why. I was talking to a guy recently, successful on paper, good job, decent income, family, and he looked at me and said, "I just feel like I've lost myself." And I've heard that so many times from so many different people in so many different situations. And every time I hear it, I think, yeah, I know exactly what happened to you. You stopped focusing on yourself, and somewhere along the way, you stopped believing you were worth focusing on. That's what I want to talk about today, because I think it's the most important conversation most of us are not having. Here's the thing about focus that most people don't understand. They think focus is about productivity, about getting more done, about optimizing your schedule or using the right app or waking up at 5 in the morning. And sure, some of that has value, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something much deeper. I'm talking about where you are directing the energy of your life. What are you paying attention to? What are you giving your hours to? What are you letting take up space in your mind? Because here's the truth, and this is one of those things that sounds simple until you really sit with it. Your life moves in the direction of your consistent focus. That's it. That's the whole game. If you spend your days focused on what's wrong, what's missing, what other people have that you don't, that is the experience you will keep creating. Not because the universe is punishing you, but because your brain is literally filtering reality through that lens. It finds what it's looking for, and always does. And on the flip side, when you start deliberately directing your attention toward what matters, toward what's possible, toward who you want to become, the same brain starts finding evidence for that instead. Opportunities you would have missed, connections you would have walked past, ideas that were always there but invisible to you before. This is not mystical. This is just how human beings are wired. But here's where it gets personal. And I want you to stay with me here because this is the part that most people skip over. You can know all of that. You can understand the focus stuff intellectually and still not change, still stay stuck. And the reason is usually one thing. You don't actually believe you're worth the effort. I know that's heavy, but I've sat across from enough people, enough real, intelligent, capable people to know that this is the invisible wall for most of them. Not lack of information, not lack of strategy, a deep, quiet belief that they don't really deserve the life they say they want. And that belief didn't come from nowhere. It came from somewhere real. A parent who was never proud of you no matter what you did. A relationship that ground you down until you couldn't remember who you were before it. A failure that happened at exactly the wrong moment and that you never fully recovered from emotionally. Years of being overlooked, underestimated, dismissed. And you absorbed it, you internalized it. And now it lives in you as this low hum of, I'm not quite enough. And it shapes every decision you make, often without you even noticing. You don't go for the opportunity because some part of you assumes you won't get it. You stay in the situation that's draining you because some part of you believes you don't deserve better. You keep shrinking, keep settling, keep telling yourself, maybe someday, but someday never quite arrives. So the question I want to leave in the air for a second is this. What would change if you actually valued yourself? Not in an arrogant way, not in a self-centered, nobody else matters way. Just genuinely, what would shift in your life if you treated your time, your energy, your attention, your emotional well-being as things that actually matter? Because I think most of us are living at about 30% of what we're capable of. And it's not because we're lazy, it's because we're leaking. We're giving ourselves away to things and people and habits that are slowly draining us, and we've normalized it so completely that we don't even see it anymore. The scrolling, the conversations that leave you feeling worse than before, the people you keep trying to convince to see your worth, the things you say yes to because you're afraid of what people will think if you say no. All of it. It's just leaking. Slowly, constantly, quietly leaking. And you can't build something extraordinary with a bucket that has holes in it. Now, I want to be real with you, because I think when people hear value yourself, they think it means doing spa days or quitting their job or cutting people off. And sometimes that stuff is part of it, but mostly it's quieter than that. It looks like stopping before you respond to something and asking yourself, does this actually deserve my energy right now? It looks like protecting the first hour of your morning like it belongs to you because it does. It looks like getting honest about which relationships in your life are genuinely feeding you and which ones are just familiar. It looks like following through on the small things you promise yourself, because every time you break a promise to yourself, you chip away a little more at your own self-trust. Self-worth is not something you think your way into. It's something you build through action, through doing the thing you said you'd do, through choosing yourself over and over in small moments that nobody else will ever see. And over time, those small moments compound, just like interest in a bank account, quietly, consistently, until one day you look up and realize you feel different, you make different choices, people treat you differently, not because the world changed, but because you changed. And the world is just responding to who you've become. I think the reason this conversation matters so much right now, and I feel this pretty urgently, is that we are living in the most distracted moment in human history. The whole economy of the internet is built around stealing your attention. Every notification, every algorithm, every infinite scroll is engineered by extremely smart people to pull your focus away from your life and into a screen. And I'm not saying technology is evil, but I am saying that if you are not actively, intentionally protecting your attention, it will be taken from you. Consistently, completely. And the years will pass and you'll look up one day and realize you spent them reacting instead of creating, consuming instead of building, watching other people live instead of deeply living yourself. That's the real cost, not the hours, the life. So here's where I want to land. Not with a 10-step plan, not with a system, just with this. Decide, today, that you are someone worth focusing on. That your life, this specific, unrepeatable life that you have been given, deserves your full attention and your real investment. Not the leftover attention, not the scraps of energy after you've given everything to everyone else. Your real, deliberate, powerful attention. Start small if you need to. 10 minutes in the morning where you sit with yourself and get honest about what you actually want. One conversation you've been avoiding that you finally have. One thing you've been saying yes to out of habit or fear that you finally say no to. Just start. Just one thing, and then let that become two things, and let those two things become who you are. Because the version of you that is focused, that values themselves, that moves through the world with intention and self-respect, that version of you changes everything. Your relationships, your work, your health, the energy you bring to every room you walk into, everything changes, not because life got easier, but because you finally showed up for it. That's it. That's the whole thing.